few weeks ago, I disclosed that I'd spent over $80,000 on link building in the last 4 years. What I didn't expect to follow was a hotbed of emotions surrounding link building, and it seems that you either sit on one side of the fence or the other. In fact, my feed was so full of pro or anti-link building campaigners, I felt like my head was going to explode. There was one particular tongue-in-cheek tweet though that really caught my eye, but more on that later. The reality is though, there's more than one way to build backlinks. So today I thought I'd cover a few of those methods and you can choose which ones sit best with you. Whichever you choose, make sure you stick around until the end of the video because I'm going to make sure that we're building links in a safe way. But before we do start, know this: backlinking done well will move that ranking needle. So let's start by defining a good backlink. There are two key determinants for me when looking at what is a good backlink versus a bad backlink. Of course, there are lots of other factors, but these are the two key ones, and they are relevance and traffic. In terms of relevance, we're looking for websites that are within your topic or as closely linked to your topic as possible. And for me, this is the number one factor when looking to determine what is a good backlink. Secondly, we want to take a look at traffic. There's no point getting backlinks from sites that have no traffic because they're not valued in the eyes of Google, and we want links from sites that Google value. My minimum requirement on this typically is about 1,000 hits per month from organic search, but obviously the more the better in this regard. But it's also important to look at where that traffic is coming from. So what are the keywords that are driving that traffic? Again, we want those keywords to be as closely linked in terms of the topic to your niche as possible. We may also consider third-party metrics such as DR, domain rating, which is an Ahrefs metric, or DA, which is domain authority, which is a Moz metric. These are just third-party metrics, so we need to bear that in mind. They can be manipulated, and that's why I typically don't see them as a key determinant, but they can help to guide us. Ideally, we want to attract do-follow backlinks. No-follow backlinks are also okay, but they're not going to pass on as much power. But we definitely want to avoid sponsored backlinks where the sponsored tag has been applied to the backlink. And the final thing that I look for is that the backlink is coming from a proper website, not something that looks like a link farm or a PBN. Obtaining a backlink from a real website is much harder, and so the value is so much more. And we can also differentiate between standard link building and foundational link building. So foundational links are a really good way to give us protection, to build our brand identity, and these typically are going to come in the form of social links, such as the likes of your Facebooks, your Instagrams and so on, and citations that come from directories. Now, most of these are going to be no-follow backlinks, but they're from high-profile websites. It's going to give you a good number of branded backlinks, but it's going to give you a little bit more protection when it comes to building those backlinks with more targeted anchor text. So the first one isn't really a tactic, it's more of a mindset, and it's something that you should be looking to do anyway as part of your content creation, and it is to create high value content that people and websites are going to be happy to link to. Now, this isn't easy, but it can attract links that people naturally want to link to. This is easier for informational content than it is for commercial content, but creating genuinely useful stuff is not only going to attract more links, but it's going to provide more value to your readers. Now, to do this, you're going to need to go above and beyond what everyone else is doing. Now, this can come in the form of research and data, and providing data that just isn't featured anywhere else online. It might come in the form of creating a tool, maybe a calculator or a piece of software, a simple piece of software, or it could just be that you have gone all out in terms of creating the best piece of written long form content and something that people naturally want to link to. Next up is outreach. Now, this is an old school way to obtain backlinks, but it still works today. The biggest barrier here is that in most cases, the website you reach out to will want something in return. And more often than not, this is going to be money. But you can get creative, offer other things in exchange for a backlink. You can also look for link insertions on existing posts and resource pages on websites and ask for inclusion. I've managed to get some really high DR backlinks that are relevant to my niche using this method in the past, and all for free. My number one tip for outreach success is to be personal and to try to grab their attention with something interesting, not just by saying greetings of the day or hello dear. Next up is link exchanges, but again, we can be a little bit creative here. We've all had those outreach emails ourselves that are dreadful, and you generally don't want to respond and you just hit delete. But rather than dismiss them out of hand, why not engage with them and look to negotiate a link exchange? They are highly likely in the same or a similar niche to you. They might work with more than one site. Now, link exchanges can be a great way to get free links. Just don't go with reciprocal links. Instead, your site A links to their site B and their site C links to your site A. Next up is perhaps one of the more contentious ones, and that is using guest post services. Now, this is the one way that is to truly kind of have a hands-off experience, although you still will need to do your due diligence on the service that you choose. But once you find a good provider or two, you can easily scale your link building using this method. And if you mix it up with the other approaches we're talking about, it can give you really good results. Disclaimer here, that's the one that I spent $80,000 on. Next up is Harrow, or Help a Reporter Out. This is a method that's great for attracting high authority backlinks, but it isn't easy and it can be frustrating. It's a pretty overused tactic, so you will need to stand out from the crowd. Signing up is free, you get emails each day, usually at the same time of day, and pitching your responses is also free, so the only cost here is your time. Now, top tips for success here are to only reply to requests that are relevant to your specific niche or to the persona who is sending the pitch. And then secondly, to try and reply within about 5 or 10 minutes of that Harrow email coming out. Like I said, it's an overused tactic, so if you're waiting 30 minutes, an hour, 2, 3 hours, then by the time you send your pitch, that reporter has probably already received hundreds of replies, and they're just not going to have time to sift through them. So time is of the essence. Now, before we start talking about how to build these backlinks safely, let's just talk a little bit about how to find sites to approach in the first place. So there are two key points here to focus on, and that is that the best types of sites are the ones that already rank for your target keyword, but they are going to be the hardest to get. And then the second best is sites that link to the sites that are ranking for the keywords that you are trying to target. So before you go ahead and start building backlinks, we do need to be careful, because building backlinks is against Google's terms of service. In fact, most elements of off-page SEO are against Google's terms of service. So we need to be really careful in how we approach our link building. And there are a few golden rules that we can apply to try and keep ourselves safe. But do bear in mind that any kind of link building does pose a small amount of risk in terms of attracting an unnatural link building penalty. So it's not something that I've ever had applied to any of my sites, and like I said, I've spent a lot of money, I've built a lot of backlinks. So if you follow these golden rules, you should be okay. So the first thing is we want to start with foundational backlinks. So we want to build out those citations, we want to build out those social profiles with all those branded anchor text backlinks. The only time you're probably not going to need to do this is if you're working on an aged domain. Next up, when you are starting to build backlinks to individual pages, you're going to want to mix up your anchor text on your links that you're building on guest posts and link insertions and that sort of thing. A mixture of branded and target anchor text is perfect here, but always go more cautious than too heavy with targeted anchor text, just to be on the safe side. And thirdly, do not get involved with anything that feels shady. So PBNs or links from sites that are on lots of email lists, try and avoid these like the plague. Anything that's too easy to obtain is likely to be an issue. And of course, we're going to stick to those principles that we discussed at the start in terms of traffic and relevance. So back to that tongue-in-cheek, and I really can't say this, tongue-in-cheek tweet. Try saying that 3 times fast. This was brilliant from Niche Site Lady, the infamous Niche Site Lady on Twitter.
Paying for links is like paying for sex. It's a short-term fix. Better to go to the gym, clean your teeth, make people laugh, be interesting, do original research, write great content, build a brand. You'll get sex and links for free.
Come on, Niche Site Lady. I do all those things, apart from one. What if you can have your cake and eat it? And I also saw this. I'm only joking, Niche Site Lady. Actually, she does put some fantastic content out on Twitter. So if you're not following her on Twitter already, it's definitely worth heading over and giving her a follow. I'll link her bio in the description below. Guys, if you do want to see just how easy it is to do link building and use a service to do that, check out my review here on Linktora. It's not necessarily the best provider of guest posts, but it is very transparent and you get to see all the domains before you go ahead and place an order. And if nothing else, it will give you a good idea of how to assess what a good domain is to build a backlink on. Thanks for watching, guys, and good luck with your own projects.